My wonderful Pastor Ken. Well, let's see what's bubbling in the stew. That's my middle name. Actually, when was, I was, it's not too long, but when I was first here, and I had really been affirmed when I was in a mission in Pittsburgh that I was much more the artist than I ever knew. It was so odd to hear that. Here I am in my early 60s. But anyway, but with these AIs, which is really constructing things uh, with a moral within your mind. But anyway, they never have to be perfect, which is what is so flawed. But anyway, I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, because I wandered in, but if you went to the art thing, um, anyway, it looked good for you. And I was just so lost, and it didn't matter. So, anyway, I told him, I said, I'm no artist, my handwriting's horrific, blah, blah. And she said, well, here's some stuff. Don't worry about it. You can stay over here. Stayed by myself. I'll never forget, she came back 45 minutes later. Then she brought the other art therapist. And then they Googled, but I just figured they were just trying to affirm a child, like potty training. And it was nice to hear a compliment, but anyway. And then she sat down and she said, Avi, do you know what an AI is? I said, artificial intelligence. She goes, no, no. She goes, it's called an art installation. And anyway, it was, she said, this is astounding what you're putting together here. With the meaning, of course, I'm rambling that this means that and that means this. And it doesn't matter. Why did I ramble? I'm 2.5 minutes in. Um, but I don't remember. I just don't remember. Maybe it'll come back. But we'll see what bubbles up. And I've been. You stir so much because I'm really trying to be open, Pastor, to you. Like, like I just strip naked and lay prostrate and go, okay, let's listen. Let's be like I put myself in greater light, like so. The point is, you can see more. Anyway, so I, I, in very simple terms, two bells are ringing at the same time. One is very, I don't care what it's about, it's all theological, but it's really intellectualizing. And then there's the internalizing. And I hope I don't veer too much into the intellectualizing, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It leaves me very confused of where I am. So if I do veer into that intellectualizing, it's really also that intellectualizing is just utter creating such inner, it makes the internalizing much worse. But anyway, with that being said, I just hope you're honored by the fact that I really, 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 really try to sit at your feet and go, okay, here's a sage. I trust him. I don't trust anybody. I better listen. At the end of the day, there's always love in his sermons. He's always worried about people living in a decaying state of being spiritually and practically. You just want to see everybody really happy and getting along. Really, you do. At the end of the day, you, you're one big kumbaya. You are. You're a perfect pastor. I just kept thinking again today. There's Joshua. Joshua for this church. And, I go all over, but one of the endearing, when you went through about your dog, and you just went, I don't know what you said, gross. You went, gross. And everyone laughed with you. It's so beautiful, Pastor. It's the same thing I keep telling you. Your sincerity, your earnest, your real love for Jesus. It just bubbles out of you. You don't have to do anything other than just be who you are and let God play the particular instrument the way God created you. And you're very cool with that. You told me a few times, be you, and you are. Don't change. You had 600 people watching. So, listen, I have no right to say any of this, but I just know how intensely seductive pride and fame and more people admiring you, and something can click that goes beyond, wow, we're, more being added, and wow, we're getting bigger, and more people are coming, and that becomes a seductive thing. It just does. Don't ever worry about that. I heard somebody pray one time. I was pretty astounded. I don't know, some mission, wherever I ended up. And I was really taken, like big time. And other people were praying that, just sounded like other people I've heard pray in various religions, but it was, it was flawlessly reverent and righteous, I guess, and all the right things. It was just leaving me sour. Man, I'm telling you, big opening up a can of tuna fish, and there was nothing there. And I told you early on, religion is like the most intriguing. I call it a hobby, but I don't know if that's the right word. I would tell that to people on the street. But, and this guy prayed. I just said, wow. If I had, I'd never remembered, heard anyone. Just so raw and honest. His words are even a little choice for a church service of sorts. But anyway, that made me feel better, but in some weird way. But it wasn't that. This man was just so real. So I went up after the whole Bogadoo-dee-dee, just like this, or whatever I am. And I told him how moved I was. And I said, it really wasn't what you said. It was that you were so honest. And he said, I learned a while ago, when you pray, you really are talking to God. So, if the people are around, if they want to listen, that's okay with me. But I'm going to tell God exactly the way I feel and what's going on, blah, blah. I was like, wow. And that's the way you are, Pastor, in your preaching. That's where you are with me personally, and I know with everyone. Everyone matters to you. There's just too many in your flock already. And you you just stay in love. And that brings me to another thing. Like I did, um, I googled Colossians chapter 3, and I read the whole thing a couple of times, King James version, and 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Except with I don't know where I was. I think it went into wives. I stopped there in Colossians. Once it started going into the whatever, but I read the part that was really more relevant, I believe, to what you were talking. But something always struck me, and I've said this before about how you would fast, but it wasn't really what you were giving up. It was where you were going. And it was well worth it. It's like, the typical middle class Americans that really only get 2 weeks vacation. Their lives are that active chronically, 7 days a week. And so they're really looking forward to this vacation. But what they got to do just to be able to get on the road, because life never stops. So it's a real hectic and crazy. But once they're there, and if the gods are kind, wow, it was just all worth it. That's the way you are with fasting, because whatever you got to put off, or you're just going. Wait a minute, I'm going into the holiest of holies kind of a thing. I mean that in quotes. I'm going into the center of the presence of the Almighty. So whatever you had to do to pack and this and that and rearrange, that's always more important to you. I think that's astounding. So even if it is hard, even for you at times, to go against gravity, to get into a different orbit, would await you because you're so in love with Jesus. It's just worth it. And as I read the scriptures about killing all the bad things, um, but it I just I don't know if the spin is right, but I can swallow it easier if it's kind of like, listen, get off all the dirty clothes, cause wow, you haven't showered in a while. You just get cleaned up and put on the new clothes, and stay with the new clothes, and of course that's why we always have to, because somehow they get dirty, and we make wrong decisions, and there is a process to that, and God, I think, set it up. And I think it's wise of you, because you never know who's listening, and you never know who, and I mean this kind of tongue in cheek, you never know who's listening at this moment, even if they've been listening for a year to your sermons. So I think it's so wise of you, and it's always sincere. You're always excited every time you quote. I hope you got to, if you do get a chance to listen to that Mick Jagger song I said to you. So what I always hear in my mind when the angels are rejoicing, you're all excited. And I don't doubt any of that. I doubt it for me, but that doesn't have anything to do with that. That's real for you and the people in your congregation that are also so in tune with Jesus. I think that's astounding. And but anyway, so the putting off, I've heard Muslims, Jews, and Christians, aesthetics talk about, the whole concept of killing the flesh. As much as sometimes people look down on the medieval Catholics and say, well, they missed the whole concept that it's all, Jesus paid it all. But when they did self-flagellation, that's because they wanted to be pure, and they're killing the flesh. And, so it's a very real reality. If you want to get into a different realm, and all you know is the realm of the world and what turns you on many levels, fame, power, greed, um, and what those things can open up for you, and all of the many choices of life that are selfish. And it just struck me in Colossians, which was like 1 Corinthians 13, that at the end of it, put on the bond of love. And after, you can have all these gifts, you can do all this stuff, you can whatever. But if you don't have love, you just, again, an empty can. There's no tuna in the can. And so I think the whole concept is, hey guys, unlike the religious Jews, guys, you were just kind of atheist, agnostic, God didn't mean much to you, just like this society. And, and whereas the Jews were just so self-righteous or so overburdened by a misplaced, they just missed any sense of relationship. And they just it was all rote and that's it. Occupied their whole lives, like I talked about, and you know that. Religious Jews, they don't have to think. They just have to obey all the laws, and the rabbis tailor-make it. So those are Orthodox, Hasidim, things of that sort. So, but so they just miss this whole relationship with God for that reason. And they still have all these hidden sins, and they're all self-righteous, and that's what Jesus said. If your righteousness doesn't exceed all these religious people, and he's telling the regular type people, Jews and Gentiles, they were more agnostic. God was something there, but they just didn't buy into the whole thing, so they didn't bother, didn't think they were worthy, or what are the base things to confound the wise, and that's where Jesus went. He condemned all these self-righteous people and loved all the ones that just thought they were not even worthy for God, or they just whatever, this life is terrible. And so, like in all societies, because it's in us, we are selfish before we're selfless. And now, when you don't even have a God and more money, because religious people had more money and they justified having their hands in the pockets of the secular so that they could build, what they considered the kingdom of God, and felt that they were better. And the Jews are very similar, the religious, to the Hindus of the caste system, very real. But anyway, so it's blah, 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 blah. And of course, God's only interested in Israel. Everything else is pagan, so, and it just goes the wrong way. Which I think I was trying to say to you just back, like, don't worry about whether you get millions of people or you don't. I'm not saying, like, it'd be shocking to me that your church doesn't grow. And because it's filled with love and comfort. And anyone who just gets humble enough for 1 minute should be crying, because then willing to admit, wow, I'm miserable. So you're just astounding. But with that, I don't know why I'm bringing it up. Just don't let this perversion of bigger mean that, some people believe that when it says in Revelation, all those churches, the 7 churches, some people really believe that when it says he's standing at the door and knocking, and that Ichabod and, all of that wasn't like a salvation call. It was like, I'm outside, guys. Whatever you replace me with, you definitely, whatever. And I don't know why I'm going off on this. I'm sure you had to hear the story. If you never did, you're going to love it. There was a fourth, I really don't know if it was documented or this is a story, but because it, but I heard it as if it was documented, but I never saw any of the documentation. So around the 4th century church, there's a young priest. It's just like who'd you talk about today from the Salvation Army? I think William Booth. He's just zealot and just radical about living a life that's just filled with love and sacrifice and giving, and upholding the church traditions, but just like a Mother Teresa who really didn't buy fully into Catholicism, but really bought into the Sermon on the Mount, and took a vow of poverty, etc. So, so this young priest's all excited, and the old priest has been there and this and that, and he kind of said, "Listen, let me show you around. It wasn't always like this." He showed him all the ornate things, and ooh, wow, bippity-doo, zip-bomb, bobby-bee. And the old priest looks at this new young priest and says, "You know, we no longer have to say with Silas and Paul, 'Silver and gold have I none.'" And the young priest barked back and said, "Neither can you say, 'Stand up and walk in the name of Jesus.'" Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Anyway, whoa. Anyway, I just, you just stay you. You just stay in love with Jesus, and believe me, no, people can't. You're just a perfect instrument, and you always make sure you're clean. You never tire of that. You just know. I don't know. I might have gone somewhere, maybe saw something. I wanted to, and I love that about you. I admire that. When I said you, and you agreed with me, I said you're a guy who pushes yourself to the limit. You would never ask anybody else to do something that you didn't already do, and figured out how you struggled maybe to get there, or maybe you're in process, and you would tell that to people. You're definitely an ing human. You're processing. You always know you're in the ing, a progression. Although I did I wrote a poem one time. I think I told you I was so frustrated. I said, progress, process, regress, confess. Progress, process, regress, confess. Progress, process. Oh no, regress. When's recess? I'm 23 minutes in. So, the concept of putting off isn't so hard. Like, guys, you're always selfish. I have a very different take on following Jesus, Pastor. But the point is, the issue is that, guys, you lived your whole life selfishly, scrounging, me before, poor fighting poor for the, and getting over it. Like, guys, you came to Christ. This is a whole new lifestyle. It's one of love, 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 love. Agape love, filial love. So, I forget that other one. Storage, I think, love. But anyway, so that's when I always think that Jesus said, "Listen, new commandment, sum it up." Like, no matter what Paul's telling them, it's just like, listen, you dedicated your life now not to be scrounging and, eat or be eaten, and it's going to be rougher for you. You don't have any privilege. You're not like coming to Christ and then you're going into some privilege. Anyway, now I'm asking a lot more of you. because now I want you to love to your own hurt. I want you to think of others more than yourself. You know, Bob, let's not get religious here. Let's get radical about what you quote in 1 John 3:18. I think that was the scripture. Kind of like, show me your faith by your works. Don't say be warm, be filled, but you don't give. So I just think in that context, and anyway, but I struggle, Pastor. I'm going to send you a song that kept going through my head. I'm sure you'd be familiar with it, but it's about truthfulness. Um, but it's not a religious artist, but I think it'll resonate. And I'm also planning to send you what I just read out of nothing, not planning, BuzzFeed, but 12 people that lived double lives until they were found out. And I was thinking about lying, lying, lying. So internalizing, Pastor, like I I really laughed to myself. I wasn't mad about it. I just shrugged it off. But I spent my whole life lying, consciously, unconsciously. I didn't know how insane I was, really am, always was. Now I look back and it all makes sense in that sense. But I always lied, 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 lied. So I gave up my dream. I felt was compelled by the goodness of my dad and Elizabeth and the people that were radical about love and like Jesus Christ. And Paul talking that way. Here's a guy, a murderer. And so I've been completely honest. It took 7 years to completely give myself this circumspect. Came to the conclusion I can't live with anybody, all that stuff that you know. But now I'm fully honest. And, you talked about, oh, you're not stressed anymore and whatever. And I, unfortunately, not like the Apostle Paul, I'm stressed on every side, but I cave in. And the point is, I'm really honest now. So honest, I can quarantine myself way before the coronavirus. Only go out at night. I know, Pastor, I hate. I'm bitter. I'm all those things it said when it was dealing with that vein of whatever. That hate, all of that. That's who I am. That doesn't leave me. It doesn't go miraculously away. I told you before, I'm a bleeder. My molesters are still molesting me. And every other hurt. And I told you a long time ago, I'm the most unfair person I know. Because I demand from others what I won't give them or can't give them. And I've given up thinking I won't. So I'm the only bizarre, which really isn't peace at all, but better than it was when I lied, is I just know I'm evil. Pastor, I can't stop being evil. I'm all those things. I'm on both sides of the coin. The good side is because I want to emulate my dad, and I know I know. But that's only going, as I told you before, downwind. Somebody's downwind, I will overlook anything. I won't take them personally. I will, because I'm so petty and I got to work that through, but I'll try. They're downwind. But anything that's upwind from me, which is a lot, I don't care. You hurt me, get out of here. I'm not giving you another chance. I know. Go away. And I think the kindest thing I do is just to stay away from people. I have to be with somebody that'll keep me calm. Or else I can't go someplace. I can't stop being what I am. And I have prayed and I have, Pastor. I told you last time, it's hard for me to, confessing that to you is weird. But anyhow, I'm filled with so many fly papers that I've tried to shake them off, make decisions. I am 65. I've had a desire to always do the right thing and always not. I told you, it's so beyond Paul and Romans 7. So I left so perplexed because I want to be honest, but in my honesty, I know I can't be around people. Like I coined when I wrote you, it's the curse of Cain, it's the curse of a leprous Cain. What do you do with lepers? You got to put them in. You got to put them away. Otherwise, all society's contaminated. I've always been this way. I've always been this way. I have. So anyway, it's so hard when I hear these challenges of putting off and putting on love. I do it, but it's a costume. It's not me. It's 31 minutes. Anyway, it's so I didn't get to any of the intellectualizing, so I'm glad because it's not as important. Um, but it so stirs me. Um, I just want to tell you a couple of things. If I remember, there were three things that are just more that stayed in my head. Um, the one was about gross and how sweet you are. Just everyone reacts with you. They do. Um, oh, I probably told you a story, so I won't belabor it. So, but you can fill in the blanks. It was about 45 minutes. My daughter was in the fourth grade, and my dad, it was my stepfather, was an atheist and or an agnostic. It doesn't matter. All these intellectual Jews. But anyway, I'm the one that's the scum of the earth. But uh, so he wanted to make sure that he indoctrinated her. And my stepfather was so highly intellectual; he was part of the Mensa group, and so we're over my mom's and stepfather's house, and whatever. Whatever we were doing there. But Rachel was never in want of love. Both sets of grandparents were alive and well, and so you remember I'm very open-minded, so I don't care. I think Linda would have been really fit to be tied, but anyhow, I won't. So he's indoctrinating her. He'd gone to the library. He got a fourth grade. He wants to make sure she understands the evolutionary theory. Because Linda was too religious for my stepfather. And so he had to make sure his 2 cents were in there. So whatever, I'm listening. I'm doing 5 other things. I'm listening. I'm just smiling. Because my daughter's not saying a word. It's not that my stepfather's anything like me. But she was listening. So I just popped in every now and then. But they didn't know I was listening whatsoever. And then it was like the greatest thing. It was like, I don't know, at that moment, I just felt like the luckiest man in the world that I just happened to be walking by that door then. So all I heard was my stepfather's kind of concluding. If he was a salesman, he would have put a pen in her hand and said, sign, hard. And so he said, now you understand about the Big Bang Theory? That's exactly what my stepfather said. And my daughter said, but Pop, who put the bang in the bang? And stepfather, because he threw the book down. You weren't listening. And then I stepped in because I didn't like that. But anyway, I was laughing. He didn't like the fact I was laughing. It just gets whatever. That's not important. I didn't like him and he didn't like me. But I thought it was just adorable. My daughter was so sincere in fourth grade. She wasn't planning to be a theologian. It's just as simple, like who put the bang in the bang? I agree with my daughter. I absolutely believe in God, but the devils believe and tremble. So anyway, so I just thought you'd like that story. And if by any chance you're young, but it was so popular as a late 50s, early 60s song. So ever since then, all I hear in my mind is who put the bang in the bang shebang shebang? Who put the bop in the baba baba ding dong? Who was that man? I'd like to shake his hand. He made my baby fall in love with me. Yeah, so it goes on. So boom. So anyway, just had to tell you that story and the deep story. Um, I have a real love affair with the Salvation Army. I've been in a lot of missions. I've been in a lot of mental health missions that were either agencies meant, this is more corporate down, and even peer semi-run. Anyway, they're all disgusting. Now, I hated Salvation Army in one sense because we're excessively rule-oriented. But every person that ran a Salvation Army, I was in 3 of their different shelters. They loved the people. They were hard people themselves. They were definitely the base of the world that now had gotten converted. But they always remembered it. It was very fresh. They didn't wait a real long time to, from. Anyway, I actually did my first show ever as a tribute to the Salvation Army, as a fundraiser for them. First time I ever did any entertaining. But anyway, why am I telling you that? William Booth. That quote was astounding. Pastor, I've said to you, I care, I'm very selfish. To my core of core, I'm vicious and evil and hating and. I've been marinated in so much suffering and pain. I've been in hell a lot, of earth hell. That was the most profound statement I've heard in a long time. I'd rather send my new converts to hell for 5 minutes than seminary for 5 years. There is endless suffering in this world, Pastor. Too much. And I fear most middle Americans that really love Jesus. I love your lifestyle, so I told you before, it's so priceless. I just think it would, I don't know how they would really handle the radical side of Christianity. Which are you told, like, listen, guys, stop already. You're supposed to be living a sacrificed life. Look at me. And, I was pretty well better to do as a religious Jew, and now this is better. So don't go, listen, just stay away. Stay in love. Stay in love. Stay in love. Be like Christ. And that's William Booth. He was really about the practical side of compassion. Not that he was any less about the preaching side. All right, it's 40 minutes. I love you, Pastor. I just love you. I just, that's all I'm going to tell you. I'm going to stop.